So we have close to 3 months now. What do you think is special about this? How do things need to change?
As per syllabus consolidation is concerned, this is the time when they should be thinking of high yielding areas. Through PYQs and other sources, you can come to know that which are those high yielding areas, prioritize them.
So first they should make a strategy for next 90 days.
So how do you think they should make the most effective use of these 3 months?
Going through previous year question paper, solving mock tests also, identify, because again when it comes to this entire preparation from prelims point of view, you got 3 identifiable sections.
This one suggestion that you allocate a particular time to a topic, and then you know that okay, you will stop there.
Because even within a subject, if you try to see, so there's a lot of books and lot of sources are there. And if you try to read everything thinking, okay, this is a better material, that is a better material.
How should that strategy be, irrespective of our preferences?
So first thing, you must analyze what is the weightage of every particular subject in the exam.
Hello dear aspirants. As Prelims 2025 is fast approaching, we have the last 3 months before the exam. I'm sure all of you who are waiting to write the exam are becoming more and more confused, maybe a little stressed also. So we are today bringing a high-powered faculty panel for you where we'll be discussing all the aspects of the exam and how you need to go about in these last 3 months. So I'll start with just this one open-ended question. So we have close to 3 months now. What do you think is special about this? How do things need to change?
Obviously, that's, as you're rightly saying, that confusions might be mounting now. The first thing first, it's time for consolidation, that they should consolidate the syllabus. And second and very important part is the revision. Most of the good students miss this bus. They don't revise properly. And third, needless to say, this mock test that they are doing mock test properly. As per syllabus consolidation is concerned, this is the time when they should be thinking of high yielding areas. There are certain areas from where questions are asked, and through PYQs and other sources, you can come to know that which are those high yielding areas, prioritize them. Do revision properly, and again I'll say revision is the key. This is the master key through which you sail in this examination. Do mock tests, and very important part which might be suicidal if you are overlooking CSAT. Be it technical, non-technical. CSAT is, don't take it lightly. The way the examination is being conducted these days, that part should be also given due importance. Do your question paper, identify the areas in CSAT where you might be weak, and do know the score areas where you can do better. So strategize for CSAT also, especially in these days, because by and large what has been found that a student ignores CSAT part in the early days. So from here onwards, in these say 90 days, odd 90 days, prioritize CSAT too. This is what my advice is.
Yes, in my opinion, the first thing one should do, I assume that most of the students who are preparing for prelims this time, so they would have started their prelims preparation at least some time ago, right? So now since 90 days are left, it is like a pit stop where they stop and look back how much they have covered and whether they have gone through according to their plan or not, and if not, re-strategize. Okay, so re-strategize doesn't mean that they have to entirely make a new plan. So it's like a simple course correction. So if at all they had not covered the important areas which they had planned, so it's time to make it a little bit faster. And if at all they could not solve good number of questions by now, so it is high time that they focus more on practicing. So course correction is very important. So 90 days milestone gives you that opportunity.
I feel, ma'am, I think there should be a strategy for next 90 days because almost all the serious students we are sure have been working. So first they should make a strategy for next 90 days. Next thing is that it is not possible to cover everything under the sky. So they must know what not to study because we live in a bombardment of information, and at this stage it becomes a bit tough. They are surrounded with so many facts. Third important thing, practicing papers in a conditioned atmosphere because ultimately they'll be taking prelims. So I feel they must condition themselves to the exam because I feel it is very simple, but it is actually tough to be simple. So I think that consistency remains there.
Yes. Very well put in, I should say, in a consolidated form. But now I would like to break it down so our aspirants can get more clarity. So Sunil sir, I'll start with you. The first aspect which we will elaborate here is time management. Like we have started talking about this thing in terms of time only, right? We have 3 months. So this again is a very overwhelming time. The aspirants have filled out their forms, and after that, the pressure also mounts. So, how do you think they should make the most effective use of these 3 months?
Again, as I was just highlighting in the initial itself, that revision is the key. So, in these 90 days, what they should do as per time management is concerned, first thing first, as Rajesh sir was highlighting, that you should identify those areas which you have done, those areas still lagging, prioritize high yielding areas, know where you are good at, identify those weak areas, and for all that, one thing which should be done is called going through previous year question paper, solving mock tests also, identify, because again when it comes to this entire preparation from prelims point of view, you got 3 identifiable sections: the static portion, high yielding static portions, then second you got current affairs, and the third is what you can say even solving MCQs and previous question paper. So somehow try to strike a balance between all the 3, that how you are going these, and again you should allocate a particular time, don't exceed that. So if you say that I will finish this topic in these many days, in these many hours, finish it then wherever you are. Do not do not try to focus too much on one area at the cost of others. And when it comes to doing, let's say, mock tests, don't do it passively. Try to identify that where your guess was working, those areas, because there are certain natural acumen people students might be having, depending upon what kind of background they have. They should emphasize those areas too, that this is my forte, this is where I should work, this is where I'm relatively weak, I should not be taking much of risks here. So that kind of maneuvering very cautiously, and if possible note it down that these are my fortes, this is where I can do well, these are the areas where even if I'm trying, I'm not going up to the mark. So this way, in these 90 days, go more methodical instead of tiring yourself. Go more methodical, identify the areas, again the high yield areas, do more of analysis on the basis of what is a performance in mock tests. And current affairs is something which you should be trying to maneuver side by side. As Amil sir was saying rightly, that we are into what's called information highway, bombardment of the news. This is the time, curtail it down. Exactly know that how much of is required, and in this examination it's more about your analysis, that whether you can understand and utilize the information or not. So, and that you can get better once you are doing mock tests and PYQs and such like things. So focus more on those areas. When it comes to mock test, again I would like to say, don't do it passively. Try to identify that. That's why obviously mock tests give you simulated atmosphere, that almost like what we do in Abhyas, what we do in many other mock tests, that you get what is called real-time simulation. But at the same time, post mock test analysis is very important. In fact, I would like to add one thing personally, if I liked it. In Abhyas now we are giving them also that where they guessed how much they performed, where they were sure and they did wrong. So these kind of analysis will help you to understand in the examination premises where to take calculated risk and where it's not. More you're prepared here, there's a very famous saying now, more you sweat during peace, less you bleed during war. So mock tests should be taken that way. This is what I would like to advise.
Sir, one thing I'll particularly like to highlight again for our aspirants, which I feel is one thing which a lot of people miss out, that they don't know where to stop. Once they're going into a subject, they keep going into it, right? This one suggestion that, you allocate a particular time to a topic, and then you know that, okay, you will stop there, because otherwise everything is endless.
Indeed, and that should keep your resources limited.
Yeah.
And, again, revise it more. Yeah. Because whenever you're doing anything, when you're reading anything first time, you just get acquainted with it. When you read it second time, this is where analysis come. And third time, you can use and apply it. So instead of reading n number of pages, confine your syllabus to what is called NCERTs, read your standard textbooks and the notes, whatever you have prepared. Instead of going here and there, jumping here and there, revise them more. And yes, very rightly, this is where most of the standard books help us to identify that where to stop. And it's end of the day, again, topic wise, if you see that, don't try it for perfection. try to have the working order. And there will be a few topics where you have to have a working order instead of thinking of perfection there. So knowing this where to stop, use NCERT as a you can say torchbearer, or for that matter, you can use whatever class notes are. That could be a source, but make sure that you, whatever allocated time is, you are religious to that you're not exceeding on that. Otherwise, it will be counterproductive somewhere else.
Definitely. In fact, I think when somebody goes and writes the exam once, they get a little bit more sense of, how things are working out. And in this sense, people who are preparing for the exam for the first time, first attempt, they are stuck in a very unique position. Like, they are still covering their syllabus. They haven't covered all these subjects. So, Rajesh sir, I would like you to highlight what kind of challenges are special to these people who are still preparing and who are going to write the exam for the first time.
Yeah, so for those who are particularly giving their first attempt this time, so many things they are going to do it for the first time. And as Sunil sir was saying, so there's you have to put a limit to the number of resources. Okay, so because even within a subject, if you try to see, so there's a lot of books and lot of sources are there, and if you try to read everything thinking, okay, this is a better material, that is a better material, after reading halfway through this, you find your friend suggested something else, and you will try to read that also. Okay, like just hopping from one source to another, so it's a never ending process. So rather than that, so limit your sources. Okay, so and fix to that and read it multiple times. So the first pitfall is referring to multiple sources for the same subject. Limiting is required here. So second most important thing is revision. So the students tend to forget that. So just by reading, they think that just by reading, like you will be able to remember everything and you will definitely be able to solve it. So when you're reading so many different subjects and so many different topics, you have to revise at regular intervals. And that too, like you will not do like once you start with the preparation, you will complete all the subjects, then you revise the first subject. Okay, so definitely that is a blunder. Once you have completed, let's say you have completed polity and you are moving on to history, while reading history, in between whenever you get time, so come back to polity and revise through that. At regular intervals, you have to do the revision. So if you don't revise, definitely you're not going to recollect many of the information here. And the third part is definitely practice. So again, it's I am from engineering background. I know how particularly those who are from engineers and science background would think. Like when you read something, definitely you would know the answer for this. So that will not work out in UPSC. Okay, so even after reading something, when you see a question, you have to sit there and think at that moment.
And apply the whole thing.
Exactly, yeah. So that requires practice. So thinking at that moment and solving the question in the exam environment, so that is what is required here. So practicing at regular interval ensures that you are on right track. It will also give you a feedback whether you are going in the right direction or not. Okay, so and most important pitfall, like most of the students make this mistake in the first time, so is ignoring CSAT.
Yes, of
okay,
course.
So particularly those who are from science background. Okay,
I think they'll become a little overconfident about the whole thing.
Yes. Yeah. So and they would think like, but trust me, like I have seen many students who are very good with aptitude, and even they have appeared for CAT exam and cleared it, and even they are coming here and failing here. Okay, it's because of the overconfidence. Okay, so you have to take it seriously. Try to take it as a subject. Okay, so you give so much of time for each of the subject. Try to give some more time here in CSAT. Okay, so practice at regular intervals and practice some full-length papers of CSAT here.
Yes, ultimately, I think that will also give them a real check, right? If you sit today and you do last year's CSAT question, you'll know how much time it's taking. Yes. Probably you need 5 hours to solve that paper. That's the kind of paper it was.
Yes,
right?
Yes. And also, I would like to bring one more point. So try to see and assess at this point of time where exactly you stand in CSAT. Okay, so the best way to do that, take any of the previous papers and sit for 2 hours completely and try to solve it. You will assess your present position and work accordingly.
We've spoken about CSAT, so Amil sir, we'll also talk about all other subjects also. Like there are so many subjects to be covered, and like sir has mentioned that every subject everybody is not comfortable with. We have a different knack for different subjects. So an aspirant might get more inclined to solve a question or study a particular subject. And how should that strategy be, irrespective of our preferences? I think previous year questions can be very well linked to this. So if you can just explain that to our aspirants.
Ma'am, I feel that first thing, everyone has an aptitude. So in the class, I usually see students like very interested in polity or modern history, while ancient history or medieval, not very many a times. And of course, we are human beings, we are inclined, we have an aptitude. So first thing that has to be noted that we are prepared, this is an exam. So one has to be according to UPSC. So there are few students who give too much time to a subject because they have an aptitude. For example, technology part, science, the static part of science and the technology part. So many students are not very interested in, later on at the last. So first thing, you must analyze what is the weightage of every particular subject in the exam. So if, for example, since Forest Services prelims is being conducted together, so of course they'll be asking questions on, and there is an interdisciplinary approach with geography, which has a very, very strong weightage because of forest. So that has to be taken seriously. In ancient or medieval, you have to read very selectively because we are not here writing manuscripts or anything. So that has to be understood. Third important thing, ma'am, this is a race against time. Being honest, seeing the students in the class, there are different kinds of students. Some who have been very diligent from day one, some who have started from January. Okay. But one thing that has to be ensured, if they are mentally very agile, okay, then they will sail through, because this exam, 100 questions and so many facts, and still the cutoff you see 76, or for that matter, it has not come for this year, hovers around 95 to 100. That's not something which is, so I think one has to be very, very calm. Even if you have started a bit late, you have to be very calm. You will easily sail through. Second, prioritize the areas which already respected faculty said. That is something which is very wise to do. Third important thing, I would say practicing papers, as sir said. Practicing papers and going through the areas where you are consistently making mistakes. Something one more which frequently I encounter, some questions are not very practical, which are asked in various test series that they access from the market anyway. So no problem. If you are consistently scoring low in test series, then it is a sign of worry. If you have not done well in one test series, that doesn't reflect your real ability. So I think practicing papers, going into the areas where, for example, Representation of People Act 1950-51 mentioned in the main syllabus, it is not in the prelims. Ethics, integrity and aptitude, and many things which are in the, so one has to be diligent to understand. In fact, one question from RPA 1951 was asked also, but later UPSC withdraw because there was some controversy related to answers. So even if it is asked, not every question can be done. There can be questions like H.N. Salyal Committee or McBride Commission. So every question is not required to be done. Last year, they asked a question on Prevention of Terrorism Act 2002, which probably most of the students, some students were not even born. Okay. So although it was briefly discussed in the class, or they asked some very factual question like length and breadth of the national flag. So I think that even if you don't know few facts, you are not required to know everything, which I specifically see with humanities student. I coming from humanity background, we buy a book, we do it from page 1 to the ISBN number. That has to be, you must know in this area what requires to be studied. This.
Yes, sir. Sir,
In fact, I would like to say one more thing as we are talking about the first timers. Two things I would like to say to the first timers. A, this is the best chance. Trust me. The
first attempt is definitely the best attempt.
It's the best chance. Don't skip it. And there are a few low-hanging fruits which are there in every paper. If there are 100 questions, trust me, 30 to 35 are those which are doable. Even in very difficult papers, 30 to 35 questions are doable if you have done your static part well and you have got some neck of current affairs. Don't do them wrong. So your priority should be, don't compare yourself with the so-called intellectuals out there. Just look at whether you can do these low-hanging fruits or not. If out of these 35 or 35 questions directly asked from NCERTs and the standard resources, out of 35, if you have done some odd 29, 30 questions, you are in the fray now. Because for rest 10, 15 questions, other might be knowing so many things. Your analysis, your you can say your idea that where your acumen is working, these kind of small tidbits may help you to. And this examination is definitely not about the so-called intellect. It is about your aptitude. It is about your analysis. It's about your application, that how much you can apply. Keep an eye. Stay alert. Even I would like to say, last year question paper, last to last question paper, 2-3 questions were directly advertised on metro station. Matrutva Vandan was at metro station. You know, this Atal Innovation Mission was in metro station. Were you alert enough? Are you vigilant enough? If you are, trust me, things are on. Government is telling proactively everything to you these days. Sometimes more than required at times also. But considering this, that you should be in that is what even every one of us are suggesting you, that government is saying so many things to you. You should be only confining to what is important from examination point of view. But those low hanging fruits out of, let's say, 135 to 30 questions every year. Basic questions, like even economics for that matter. Even this year, they've asked questions like which of them are financial transactions. They've asked questions like who makes our monetary policy. These kind of questions should not be wrong. Those big questions, those difficult questions, they are not the determinant. In fact, knowing how to leave a bouncer is a skill also.
Yes.
You know, that's how you become a big batsman, not just by hitting bouncers. Knowing this is a bouncer, respect it. So they are not going to change it, and that's why being first timer, go confident. Be calm, as sir is advising, be calm. Maybe you are still managing between your, let's say, some pending classes, some pending syllabus and that kind of thing. Somehow make a schedule. Try to cover as max as you can, but don't get panic on it. So trust me, no matter how much you have covered, how much you have not covered, it's on that very day, a lot of factors will be working. Go with that also, what's called invisible hands. So trust in that, and this is the time when you are full with energy. Have faith, you have read the things. Identify those questions where you're very sure in the first go, and that's why iteration system in the mock test could be very helpful, especially the first timers. So while doing iteration, do one thing: look into the difficult question, but first try to do all those questions which are sure about. Then second round, you're 50-50. Third, where you're taking guess, informed guess, and identify what is your success ratio. That is how, perhaps for first timer, instead of being what is called panic and comparing yourself with others, just look at yourself, that where you are, what your strength areas and weak areas, and manage somehow whatever the things are. You have to prioritize a few things between the classes and revision.
I'd like to add one more thing. So, as sir was saying, usually why the students tend to ignore the low-hanging fruits, because they are not very much calm and composed in this entire process. They are so much stressed, and they tend to ignore these common things which is there around us. Okay, so this is, sir was giving examples. There are few things which are there in the metro line, while traveling in metro, or a few more things which is considered to be very easy to do that, but student failed to even clear those kind of questions also. So because I feel they are trapped in a kind of preparation which they tend to see everything has to go perfect. They want to make sure everything has to go perfect, and if they are not able to do something, they will think, okay, so their entire attempt is going to go waste, so there is no point of giving this, so let me skip this attempt. Okay, so and they try to postpone it to the next year, and by that time, I'm sure most of us agree that their energy level will go down. That is why first attempt is the best attempt, and don't go for 100% perfect preparation, because that never happens.
That never happens, and I think in that pursuit, they're not going to revise, they're not going to read more. In fact, I really agree with sir's number, and I always quote this number in all my classes, that you will only know 35 questions. I think it's a very reasonable number. You go through the first reading, so 35 questions you might know. But I also always like to emphasize that this 35 you cannot afford to miss out, because everybody knows these 35 questions. So you have to go around in the cutoff, right? So that has to be there. Amal sir, can we delineate some specific portions in subjects where you think is these 35 questions range ki itna, you must do?
I feel, ma'am, with respect to modern history, I think that ancient and medieval, one has to do very selective reading. Modern history, although few questions in last few years have been unprepared, but primarily from the basic sources. Polity, I would, of course, I teach polity. So polity, they of late they have reduced. Initially 7-8 years back, they used to ask 17 questions. Now they are asking 12 to 14, which of course I cannot predict. They may increase, but yeah, there are very less number of questions. Advertently, they are doing this, that the institutionalization of preparation. They want to deinstitutionalize the preparation. Anybody preparing from Lakshadweep or Itanagar or Ahmedabad has an equal say. So, but then even if it is unpredictable, then also basic books are of extreme relevance. So one has to cover the basic books. So I would say, and in subjects like science and technology, science is technology part is relatively off late. For example, basic questions like what is a biometric, whether a voice speech recognition, this question was asked. So I think technology part, modern history, then you have polity. These days, in last 3 years, they have asked, every year they have asked one question directly, explicitly mentioning the article. For example, I usually emphasize in the class that money bill is not only article 110 but also 109. Last year they asked a question, article 109. So they want the students to read the constitution. Of course, 1 to 395, it's not required, but those articles which are important. Then we see subjects like geography, as sir very rightly said. So in geography, map practice also, and all those things are of importance. And in geography, specifically NCERT is of extreme relevance. A very basic question which UPSC asked some years back, that what is the west to east breadth of India, which was directly lifted from class 11th NCERT. Yeah. So I think for geography, NCERT, all the subjects, but specifically for geography, it is of extreme relevance. One last thing, that is with respect to economy. So I think UPSC is looking after common sense. Yeah. Always UPSC looks after those people who have extreme common sense. So they'll ask, if this happens, what will be that impact? So concept becomes a bit more important. Basic areas may one should have a concept. I think, ma'am, this is.
One more thing, environment.
Environment, I said before also.
Is something which is, because, again, these days, this is one of the limiting factor also. So environment is something which, and again, as you're rightly saying, sir was rightly saying, in environment also, especially because IFS examination has been conducted, so they will be asking question on environment too. And for all these, in fact, I would like to say one thing which I have noticed, all these questions, whenever asked, something has happened in that given year. Yeah. We might not be aware of it, that's a different thing. But even, say, for example, he's talking about 1-0, something happened that year. And that's why it became significant. So whenever they're asking anything, something has happened. That's why I said just stay alert. Stay alert what is happening around you. And that is exactly the common sense. So if you're aware of what is happening around you, just keep an eye and that is where the eye is vigilant eye. Just a vigilant eye of a common man is good enough to qualify, because prelims is otherwise a filtration round. Yeah. And in any filtration round, they cannot make it complicated. That's why I'm insisting on this part, that those 30 to 35 questions, which if they are going wrong, then you lose your chances. After that, you have to be just another 10, 15, 20 questions good by identifying the areas where you know how to deal and also knowing the areas to skip. Because many of the good students, they do a mistake that they go more in negative. Yeah. Because they're unnecessarily trying. Like a good batsman, no, I can't deal with spinner. So skip the spinner and wait for the first bowler to come. Some of them might be not that good with the first bowler, they prefer spinner. So you should be knowing which is your forte. 35 question done, okay, I'm in fray now. Now for rest 70 question, rest 65 question, some 30-35 question will be falling in my area. Rest 30-35 question, not my cup of tea. Least bothered. So that is what you have to identify. This is what I was saying, you should be knowing where your acumen is working, where you are not good at, even despite all your efforts, your questions are not going right, that also should be identified. So this is how it's more about maneuvering, that whether you maneuver that way. So act smartly, and that's what I was emphasizing also. I would like to add, in fact, I think all of us will agree on it, that analysis of your mock test is very important.
That is actually the next thing which we are going to talk about. But Rajesh sir, I want to make this a little bit more objective. When, of course, we've been emphasizing, how important it is to give a mock test. So in that sense, 3 months time, how many mock tests you think must be given? Like we can have a minimum objective number. And in terms of number of attempts also, right? Like sir has explained, 35 questions, 35 may or may not. And then there is some part which you absolutely have to leave. So do you think while practicing mock tests, the aspirants can start off with a particular number in mind that, okay, this is how much I want to attempt, or maybe something on that line?
Okay. Coming to the first part of the question, so how many tests they have to attempt? So in the next 90 days, at least the minimum number should be once a week. Okay, so honestly, if you ask me, once a week you have to sit in the test environment, exam environment, and practice writing exam for the 2 hours. You have to assume that you are sitting in UPSC. and you have to ensure that you sit for 2 hours completely. Some of the students, what they do, they complete the paper in 1.5 hours and they just get up and go. So that means that you are not given your 100%, right? So sit in the exam kind of environment for 2 hours, preferably a test center, physical test center, if you are accessible, if it is accessible to you. So then do this like multiple iterations and thinking and trying to do a logical deduction, and then only you will be able to identify the pitfalls you are going to face, right? So minimum 1 per week. More than that, it's fine. Like it's up to the student based on the level of preparation.
In fact, sir, I would like to add one thing, though it's peripheral thing, but maybe of some help. When you're doing mock tests, prefer the same time when the exam is going to be conducted.
So 9:30.
Because your body get acclimatized to that timing, and if possible, switch off the fan. You never know where you never know where the center is going to be and what kind of odds you are going to face there.
Yes, we always say this.
And so if they
so-
can give like both in the same day, that is I think most
Well,
ideal.
that is where, and
Yeah.
especially in CSAT, because
CSAT.
that is the time most of the students prefer to sleep.
Yes.
That is something that your biological clock has to get adjusted accordingly.
I know one student who slept.
Maybe. Fair chances.
CSAT paper
Fair
too.
chances, and
Got
that's
to
why
know.
might be peripheral importance, but should be considered also. So once in a week and try the same timing.
Yes, for that matter, even our Abhyas has been a very good initiative, Yes. So in our time, I don't think we had any such facility, So because you go to the same kind of exam hall, many times even the students have told me that they got the same center what they had been to in Abhyas, and you write the exam in the same environment, like morning 9:30 to 11:30, afternoon 2:30 to 4:30, and in between you have that gap, like you have to arrange for your food and take some rest and again gain your energy back and go and give. So that kind of simulation is going to be really helpful.
Additionally, the post and Abhyas analysis, that's my personal favorite. The way they provide all the details that, what you have done, where you're missing, and what could be. So that should be somehow in sync with whatever your analysis about yourself is. So if I was thinking this is my strong area and I failed to attempt the questions there, that is where in the second Abhyas I should try to correct it, so that we get fine-tuned with it. So
Actually, many students don't know this facility which is being provided by Vision, that they get a post-test analysis with a proper, so graph, everything. The
That
areas
is with
and
the
all.
test series also.
Yes.
With that all tests, that option is there,
Yes.
right?
In fact, ma'am, CSAT as well as the practicing papers, test series and mains, we have consistently seen that the score that they get in the test series is by and large they get the same. And this has happened even in mains. I saw that most of the students they got almost similar marks. So in the conditioned atmosphere while practicing papers, just one more thing, they get to know what is their strength and what is their weakness, and it is most likely to replicate. Just to add, one student I knew which is unique, that's why to mention, he used to get somewhere around he used to attempt 65 questions only during the test series and get 62-63 correct. This was the thing, because he knew that is very unique. He is into services. So in the examination hall also he attempted 65 question and got 61 correct. So because this gives you an understanding of your strength and weakness, I think that is something which is pertinent.
Yeah. So coming to the second part of this discussion, how many number of questions to be attempted? So in my honest opinion, it is very difficult to put that exact number. Like, so if you ask me, on the day of exam, maximum number of questions without taking a random guess. Without taking a random guess, what is the maximum number of questions you can go with it? Random guess in the sense that where you are guessing randomly without any idea out
Or
of 4.
choosing between two
Yes.
options, something like
No,
that.
choosing between 4 options, 3
Between
options.
two.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, but students do that also.
I said Jai Mata Di. That also works somewhere.
So, leaving those questions, if you are able to eliminate 2 and you have to take a guess, so go with the logical guessing. Okay, so including that, you should try to maximize.
So that will also give a very good sense of what is the kind of paper. If you've practiced a lot of paper, you know that you've always been able to do 40 questions, but in this paper you were only able to do 30 questions. So you automatically know that this is a difficult paper, I need to lower my attempt.
So it also depends upon the difficulty level of paper. So that is why it is very difficult to put an exact number here. And one more factor which is under consideration here is accuracy. how accurately you are able to solve this. So, for example, Amin sir was saying about a student who was attempting 65, but he was getting 62 right. In that case, he is totally in a safe zone. Even if he was attempting 65, he knows that okay, 62 is right. So, if another student has low accuracy, he should try to maximize. Okay, so maximum number of questions, but without random guess. Okay, so random guess comes in those questions where sir was saying about bouncers. You should know which question to not attempt. That is a very, very important thing. Yes.
If the question looks very easy, there is a trap. If the question looks very, we have paucity of time. So many questions I can say that looked very tough. But if you will read, it is one of the easiest question in the question paper. This is the strategy, because they are testing whether in the examination hall you are alert or not.
And sir, we all have this bias also. I think कि बहुत बड़ा exam देना है, you know. So the answer cannot be very easy. So that leads you to a wrong answer.
If you know it, then it's easy, full stop. That's how it is. If you know something, it's easy. If you don't know, it's difficult. There is no other definition of it, whether it's easy or difficult. One thing is there when you're guessing, trust on your instinct, use your logic, and identify that first thread. It's like something is intertwined, and you have to figure out that thread from where you can unwind it. So, when you read the question, there must be something, an anchor from where you can start. If you get anchor, then only take risk. If you're not getting that logical anchor, there's no point. Then it is going to be complete, it may go anywhere. It may go haywire also. So if you know that anchor, if you can identify that anchor, go for it. It's worth trying, because this is what they're actually trusting also, logic. So if something, as Anil sir was saying, if something is logical, I might not be knowing the exact reality, but logically this is how it should be. So anchor should be clear. If my anchor is logical to me and leading to some deduction, may go for it. That is how you should be guessing, instead of just going random guess.
So, coming back to the same, the number of questions, of course, in the final day of exam, you don't have an exact number. It all depends upon the difficulty of paper and the accuracy which you are able to get. So, but while practicing, you should try to target crossing at least 80 to 90. Okay, while practicing, let's say you are sitting in a mock test and trying to do that. So, because you have to work towards achieving that. Okay, so because even in forest service also, the number of questions which you attempt has to be higher in order to cross the cutoff. So while attempting the mock, go for crossing at least 80 to 90 and know those questions which you have to skip. That is a very tricky part, and that comes with the practice only. And leaving that, try to maximize this, but on the day of exam, don't keep any number. You are going to reach for the maximum. Even if you are able to cross 90, 95, that means you should be able to do this. Okay, there's nothing wrong. Okay, don't think that you are crossing 90, 95, you should stop it, nothing like that. If you are able to take a logical guess, go for it. If you are not able to take a logical guess, you are taking just a random guess, so please stop.
So sir, you have mentioned that the number is 70 to 80, right? So let's say an aspirant starts writing mocks. So he's trying to attempt this number, and of course he'll go back and analyze how he's been doing, and that analysis will come through marks. So then we expect that after he knows how many marks he's getting, he knows about his accuracy, he'll have to re-strategize his number. So do you think we have a number, like in terms of marks, how many marks should these 70, 80 questions be getting him?
So I think whenever a candidate is attempting around 80 to 90 question, so he should be sure that he is right in that. Okay, so it's not like just to want to reach that number and even going beyond what he knows and he is just randomly marking, that he should not do. So he only to that extent he is sure that okay, this is the answer which he thinks, and once he goes back and checks that. So if at all he is not very accurate and he is getting lesser marks, okay, so let's say if a candidate has attempted around 80 questions, so technically he should be getting around 160, okay, so and if he is right only in around 50 questions and his negative will add up on to the 10 more questions and he is getting only 40 net right, and the marks would be around 80. Okay, so in that case, that means he is making a lot of mistakes and his guessing method is going wrong. So he has to work towards bringing more accuracy. So till he makes that accuracy higher, he can reduce the number of attempts. The target is around 80 to 90. Okay, so but attempt only to that extent that you are sure, you are accurate. Then in each test, revise, go through the answers and think where you have gone wrong, and then try to increase the accuracy. And with revision and practice, accuracy will definitely increase. Only that you have to be regular.
So, sir, this practice of writing mocks in that sense is also equally important, right? Along with all the studying they are doing. They need to also strategize in terms of number of attempts, in terms of knowing what is their accuracy, right? This will be very, very important. Okay, so Amil sir, one last thing which I want you to stress on is the role of current affairs here. So we have so many questions directly coming from current affairs and then applied questions also on that. So how is this current affairs preparation supposed to go about?
Ma'am, I feel that why they are first to, one must understand the psyche of UPSC. So they are bestowing people with power and they want people who are relatively smart. So just because this is not a school exam where the syllabus shall be designated and you'll just go and write. So they want real life. For example, last year, I'll give 2-3 examples. Last year, it was quite very what you expected that they asked questions on ethics committee. Delimitation was a new parliament building got constructed. So delimitation, it's not me. Anybody can say that delimitation would, I just mentioned in the class, ethics committee also. Of late, there has been a lot of question on liberty, human liberty, so many cases, confinement, or whatever. So, last 5 years, 4 times they have asked question on liberty. Sometimes they ask judicial custody, police custody. Sometimes they ask preventive detention, punitive detention. Sometimes they ask bail and follow, reasonable restriction. So, what they want is those students who are aware about the society. Because first, it will give a younger aspirants better chances, because those who are preparing since long, they have a better command over facts. So, younger aspirants get a level playing field by current affairs. And second, it tests the real mind of an individual, because if there is a fire, one must take a decision. That is tested by current affairs. So sources, I would say undoubtedly newspaper is the most what you call, I think it is very important, because newspaper changes one aspirant for 7-8 months. He doesn't even know he's changed. His whole area of seeing things there. So newspaper remains. But since we are discussing about the 3 months, if you have been doing monthly compilation of current affairs, Vision IS, that actually is really good. If you have not been that diligent, then I think PT 365 will do, first thing. Second, I think if you have time, you can prepare the list of few topics that are in news. Do some just say they asked a question on Bombay Natural History Society many years back, and it was in news. They may ask a question on Aga Khan Trust. This year, Places of Worship Act, so they may ask the question on secularism and related, or for that matter, they may join parliamentary committee on Waqf is there, so they may ask the JPC. So this again, there is a question related. So whatever is going on, just make a search around that. They will ask a concept with respect to that. JPC was constituted, so they may ask what is a JPC. So the Waqf mein secularism ko leke. So I think current affairs, and also UPSC tries to ensure that we will not ask directly what is given, but something related to that. So those topics, you prepare a list. It will hardly take time. Do some more search. One last thing I would say, ma'am, here, that for example, Article 18 is taught in the class. Clause 1, Clause 2, Clause 3 and Clause 4. But they didn't ask anything from Article 18. They went to padmaawards.gov.in, and from that page only they framed 3 questions, which many students got wrong. Similarly, fundamental duties, first fundamental duty, respect national flag, but they asked the length and breadth from your Flag Code of India 2002. So I think whatever is going on, hardly 20 topics would be there in polity. I honestly speaking not have very much idea about other, but you may prepare and just do a bit search. You will hit a few of them in the prelim stage of the examination. So PT 365, making some probable guess about the upcoming topics, revising your the team is already preparing the current affairs, incorporating them in your test series. So focusing on that, I think, and Abhyas, I think, will do the binding thing and everything else.
So what we, I think, have, how we can summarize this is that, of course, current affairs are important. The aspirant cannot afford to miss it. But depending on how he has prepared, he can start off with that kind of a source. If he's already studied a source, so it's time to compile that, to consolidate, revise, and link it with the static part, right? But if he is still not done that, there's still time. I think at least PT 365 could be something he can do very well. That it can be like a good revision, a dedicated prelims-based revision for, right? Okay. Talking more about revision, Sunil sir, if you can just summarize this for our aspirants, that how important revision is, and if they've made any notes or any kind of short format things which they have, how can they effectively use it?
Indeed, and that's what I has been emphasizing, because in this examination, revision is the key. no matter how many times you've read, how many pages you have read, if you're not reading it and repeating it, it's of no use in the examination, as a matter of fact. Now, when it comes to revision, I'll say 3 layers of revision are there. And I was just telling you a few minutes back that first time you read, you get acquaintance. Second time you read, you somehow got analysis. Third time, you're ready to use it. And you know that famous Japanese proverb, I'm least bothered about those 10,000 moves you have done one time. That one move which you have done 10,000 times is going to be the deciding factor. So revise it, because what happens with the revision, that you yourself start thinking in various dimensions. You get your abstraction. So how to revise, as the question is, first thing first, that make your if you have a proper notes, well and good. Reading NCERT, reading books, well and good, whatever, but first round you should be reading it to the length and width. Then make a small quick note, kind of what you call mind maps kind of thing, that make mind maps and try to revise that. But now comes the actual revision, the third one. Once you have done your mind map, you have read it, now go and solve the questions. There will be something very interesting and funny, that when you're solving the question, many things which you have skipped has been asked. Now, this retrospective analysis will help you to understand what you thought is not insignificant, but question has been asked. So from previous question paper, identify those things. So third revision is when you're revising through previous question paper. So whatever topic is, let's say you have done one topic in economy, let's say you have done monetary policy. So you read monetary policy from your source. Second, revise it through your mind map, and now do the questions from the previous year, and you will identify certain areas. This was also should be added. Now, wherever your mind map is, keep spaces available and add those things there. Now you're ready for it, and this document is your final document before the examination. Because end of the day, in this examination, and for that matter, all the examinations, psychologically speaking, if I say 10 names, starting with first name, let's say Amitabh Bachchan, and last name to be MS Dhoni. Out of 10 names, first name you remember for sure, 10th name you will remember for sure. Out of rest of 8, somebody may remember 4, some may 5, depending upon what are their liking and disliking. So recency effect matters, that in the last 15-20 days what you have read. You might have read it earlier, and that is where students get confused. Padha to hai kuch, I know something, but not sure about it. Last 15-20 days, you should have your own precise notes. And this note should have your core things with the memory map, and even whatever you have read in the previous question paper. One more thing, as sir was talking about current affairs, by the time you're reaching to that particular final revision, even the current affairs also should be added in your notes. So your note should be having now core part, static part, questions from the things from the questions, and even things from current affairs. And as sir was rightly saying, in fact, I believe that's a very good source, because while drafting questions in test series, current affairs of significance are automatically addressed. So that becomes a natural source. So identify those questions which you were not knowing, add it into that particular topic. And the last 15-20 days, only revise these things. Don't go here and there, don't jump here and there. But how good your notes are, your so-called mind maps, that matter. So revision should be very methodical, strategic. First, read the things, make your mind map, do the previous question paper, test series, and even current affairs. Add in your mind map, and last 15-20 days, revise only these things. And no, because in last days, what will happen, otherwise you'll get messed up. Because this is also have to revise, current affair also have to revise. So when you're reading, let's say, monetary policy, all the static part you are doing now, whatever inputs from the questions you are having, whatever input from test series you are having, and even your current affairs are there. So now you know, okay, 2 hours, monetary policy, done. Now the next topic, clean the plate. Otherwise, you'll be messed up out there. So, and revision, again, I'll say it's end of the day, it's revision. And revision means that, okay, now you are acquainted with it, and you have read. Trust me, if you have read for 1 year, you might have read it somewhere or the other. Revision is something which gives that finishing touch to it. So that's why revision is definitely one of the deciding factor, and I'm underlining it. It's one of the deciding factor.
I think we've addressed all the issues, and I really hope our discussion would be very helpful for our aspirants. If you have any further queries, you can leave a comment or you can call us on the student care number which are flashing on your screen. I wish all the aspirants all the very best for their prelims 2025.